Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Grace Community Church's live stream. We are so glad you can join us wherever it is that you're watching us. You join a community of people of all ages, young and old, of all sorts of backgrounds, but all united around the person of Jesus, all united in our praise for him. So let's start our time together by praising him right now with this song. You can turn it up and you can enjoy the music as we sing together. Well, with those words in mind, let's pray to God this morning, shall we? Let's pray. Father God, we come to you this morning to praise you, to praise the name of Jesus, that worthy Lamb who was slain, that perfect sacrifice that was given in our place, so that we could be free of all the guilt and shame of everything we've ever messed up with our actions, with our words, with our thoughts, so that we can be blessed and turn that blessing back to praise, so that we could be called out of darkness into your glorious light. Father, there are those of us watching this morning who are experiencing a dark night, experiencing really hard times with physical health, with mental health, with financial and family worries. Jesus, we pray that what we've just sung, that you would break into our strife with your grace, with your boundless love, with deepest joy, and with endless life. We pray that even as we join in this church service together now, Lord, we'd know and experience something of that in our hearts. And we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Well, I'm going to introduce to you Naomi Fossil, who's one of our members here at Grace Community Church. She also serves on our staff team, looking after CAP, Christians Against Poverty. It's a debt counselling service that we run here at Grace. And, it's been a super hard year with COVID. For a lot of people, the experience of redundancy or job loss or furlough has resulted in a lot of people having a lot of financial pressure. And so you'd expect, wouldn't you, that somewhere like CAP, which is a service for people experiencing financial hardship, you'd expect CAP to have an awful lot of people using their service right now. But that's not necessarily true. And I spoke to Naomi about some of the reasons why not. So, Naomi, is it true that a lot of people are accessing services like CAP right now?
No, 40% nationally CAP are down on calls. So it's really quiet here and nationally.
Wow, so actually 40% down on what you would usually expect, regardless of COVID and furlough.
Yeah, so even though we've got reports in the media that people are losing their jobs, people are furloughed, the people aren't coming through.
So what do you think might be the reasons that CAP referrals are so low at the moment, given the impact of COVID this year on people's jobs and income?
Yeah, so I think there's a few factors. One of the big things is there's a lack of enforcement from creditors. So credit card companies aren't chasing. You can't be evicted. You can get a mortgage holiday. There are a few of the things. Referrers just aren't operating as normal. So a lot of the agencies that would refer into us normally aren't seeing their clients face to face. And often we find with CAP clients, it takes a referral to make the call with the client, to make that first step with them together in person, for them then to come through to us. And also CAP say that it takes 18 months from the person being first given CAP's details to actually then making the call. So actually the agencies are giving out our details over email in the form of leaflets, but that is going to take 18 months potentially to come through.
Naomi, we're in this second lockdown now. Furlough has been extended into next year. What do we expect to happen in the next few months, say to around spring, that could mean someone would find themselves in some sort of financial difficulty?
Yeah, so there's a lot of redundancies going on, businesses closing, furlough happening. So 80% of your wages is great for some, but for others with very low income, that's just too big a hit for them. What's my sorry, Graham. I've lost my phone now.
That's okay.
Christmas is another big factor for people. Cold weather means you need your heating on more. All those things that we kind of take for granted are big costs for people. Food prices, if you go to the shop and the cheap toilet roll's not there, you have to buy the more expensive one. And the same with food, if the cheap pasta's not there, you're perhaps buying other things that you wouldn't normally buy. And so CAP have done a survey, and 37% of people are saying that they're skipping meals. 31% are not showering and bathing so that they don't use hot water. So yeah, there's some of the things that are impacting us.
I guess the expectation is that as the months go on, we do expect more people to find themselves in tight spots financially. Naomi, who is CAP for? Like, who can actually access it? What would be sort of the first step to accessing a service like CAP?
So it's for anybody, Christians or non-Christians, from any background, rich or poor, and anybody that's hitting financial difficulty of any kind, really. If you've got any form of debt, no matter how small, it's for you.
Naomi, if people wanted to get in touch with you about accessing CAP, maybe for themselves or for someone they know, have you got an email address we can put on the screen here?
Yeah, so naomi.frossell@graceinthecommunity.com. Or if they wanted to phone CAP because they didn't want to speak to me, they could phone 0800 328 0006.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Naomi. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you. Cheers.
Whether it's for you or someone you know, do get in touch if CAP could be of use to you. And you can also get in touch with the church on the email address that's going to appear below here to inquire about our financial support fund. We set this up in spring for people who may need some extra financial assistance as the virus affects people's income and livelihoods. This is for people who are both members of Grace Community Church and those we're wider connected with. And if you'd like to find out some more information about how you could access a bit of money from that fund, then please email us and we'd love to hear from you. Okay, in a few minutes, Martin is going to be carrying on this series in the book of Acts, Mission Unstoppable. I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say to us this morning. Hannah is going to read the Bible. But first of all, jazz hands wave. Tamar, what are you acting out today?
Good morning. Now I am going to act out 4 things and I want you to guess what I'm acting and then spot how they're connected. So the first thing is this. The second thing is this. The third thing is this. And the fourth thing is this. Did you work them all out? But what's the connection? Well, they're all things that I have given up when they've got too hard or difficult. I haven't done the opposite. I haven't endured. Let's find out about Molly and Millie. And will they give up or endure?
Molly and Millie both want to run a marathon in 3 months' time. Neither of them have great running styles, but their coach says they have potential. The question is, will they keep going with the training when there's obstacles, or throw in the towel? Will they endure when it's difficult and hard, or give up? Let's find out. Both Molly and Millie are up and ready for their first run. It's not going to be easy as the weather is looking pretty awful. Oh no! Here comes a thunderstorm! And a hurricane! And now it's snowing! Will they endure? Or give up? What's this? Is Molly stopping? No, don't worry. It's just that her mates turned up to support her. They played their part by bringing her a coat and gloves. What great teamwork! Molly is keeping going even though it's hard. But where is Millie? 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 Oh dear. It seems Millie has gone home to get warm. Molly and Millie have now been in training for a few weeks. Their coach has given them careful plans to follow. But as they're running along their route, they see the path ahead is closed with roadworks. They can't go under it. They can't go over it. They can't even go through. What will they do? Will they endure or will they give up? Molly has an idea. She knows another way. Off she goes. Will Millie follow? Uh-oh. Millie's gone home instead. she's got a paper cut and is worried that running a different route will make it worse. Molly and Millie are at the halfway stage of training, and the going is definitely getting tough. They're running for longer and longer, and up hills too. It's a killer. Their legs are aching, their lungs are burning, and the soles on their shoes are wearing thin. Not only that, but car drivers are beeping and laughing at them as they stagger on. And thoughts of chocolate and Netflix are filling their mind. Both of them want to quit. Will they endure, or will they give up? Molly reminds herself of a goal and why she is doing this. She endures. But Millie? Yes, you've guessed it. Millie's gone home. Today, Molly and Millie are doing a long distance run through some deep, dark forest. They know that there are bears in this forest. Big, grizzly, brown bears. But their coach has promised he is in the forest too, and he won't let any harm come to them. Molly believes her coach. She has confidence in his plan and his promise, and so she endures. She runs through the hardship. Run, Forrest, run! Whereas Millie, well, she decides that the only bear she wants to see is her teddy bear, and so she's gone home to give it a cuddle.
Molly and Millie had different approaches to hard and difficult times, didn't we? And so do we. We have different approaches to hard and difficult times. Sometimes we forget that God will give us everything we need. We don't think that he's at work, or we doubt that he's with us. We want to give up like Millie rather than endure. But in Acts 18, we see Paul facing different kind of difficult and hard times. And like Molly, he endures. He endures with the help of his friends, remembering the goal he has and trusting in God's plan and power. So see if you can spot some of those things as Hannah reads Acts 18 to us now.
Thank you, Tamar, for that bite size. And now we're going to read from the Bible, from the passage which Tamar has just been talking about. So, we're reading Acts chapter 18, starting at verse 1 and ending at verse 11. After this, Paul left Athens and went to Corinth. There he met a Jew named Aquila, a native of Pontus, who had recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had ordered all the Jews to leave Rome. Paul went to see them, and because he was a tent maker, as they were, he stayed and worked with them. Every Sabbath he reasoned in the synagogue, trying to persuade Jews and Greeks. When Silas and Timothy came from Macedonia, Paul devoted himself exclusively to preaching, testifying to the Jews that Jesus was the Christ. But when the Jews opposed Paul and became abusive, he shook out his clothes in protest and said to them, "Your blood be on your own heads. I am clear of my responsibility. From now on, I will go to the Gentiles." Then Paul left the synagogue and went next door to the house of Titus Justus, a worshipper of God. Crispus, the synagogue ruler, and his entire household believed in the Lord, and many of the Corinthians who heard him believed and were baptized. One night, the Lord spoke to Paul in a vision. "Do not be afraid. Keep on speaking. Do not be silent, for I am with you, and no one is going to attack or harm you, because I have many people in this city." So Paul stayed for 1.5 years, teaching them the word of God. And now Martin is going to explain that part of the Bible for us.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to be with you this morning. We're continuing our series, which we've entitled Mission Unstoppable. We're looking at the New Testament book of Acts and seeing how the church grows. Particularly, we're looking at the Apostle Paul's journeys, his missionary journeys around the ancient world through kind of the book of Acts chapter 13 up to 21. 3 journeys. We're seeing the way in which God used him as he travelled around. One of the things I often say whenever we have one of our new members courses, almost every time at the end of that, I'll use this illustration. And I've said it to you before, but I think it bears repeating. And I often say, when we think about the church, we have to remember the church is a lifeboat and not a cruise ship. On a cruise ship, you get on board and you pay your money, and your expectation is that all of your needs will be kind of tended to. The staff will do all the work, making sure you're okay. If you're unhappy with anything, then you'll go and complain and let people know you're unhappy. And if you're really unhappy, then you can leave and try another company and see if that works out any better. But the church isn't like that. The church isn't a cruise ship where you're sort of a consumer with all your needs being met by a staff team. Now, the church is a lifeboat where we get on board and it'll be hard work and it'll be cramped and uncomfortable and rough going at times. But ultimately, the mission of a lifeboat is to say, look, there's people dying. It means that all of my felt needs won't necessarily be met, but there's people drowning and there's a mission to reach them. The church is a lifeboat. It's not a cruise ship. And some of that, I guess, we see some of those sort of ideas at work in Paul's life and ministry as he travels around the ancient world. He encounters many obstacles and hardships and trials and difficulties, but he keeps going. He perseveres in the mission because he knows what's at stake. And the great encouragement for us that we keep seeing is that actually it's not his mission, it's God's mission. And despite the opposition, despite the difficulties, we see it's mission unstoppable because God is at work. And this week in our studies through Acts, we reach Acts chapter 18. Paul arrives. This is his second missionary journey, about halfway through it. He arrives at a city called Corinth. Now, what do we know about Corinth? Well, in the ancient world, Corinth was a large city. Back then, it was bigger than Athens. It was probably the largest city in its region. It was diverse. It was densely populated. It had people from all different places. It had loads of, a bit like Athens, loads of gods and loads of temples and loads of different ways people were worshipping. It was known for being an incredibly hedonistic place. Back in the day, if you were to call someone Corinthian, that wasn't really a compliment. It was a description of a way of life which indulged in every sort of pleasure seeking. That's what Corinth was like. Today, an equivalent to Corinth could be any major world capital, London. Big cities like New York, think of Paris or Berlin or Amsterdam or Tokyo or Sydney. It's that kind of cosmopolitan, diverse, pluralistic, hedonistic kind of a place. That's Corinth. But because it's a large, diverse place, it's also a strategic place. Paul knows it's a strategic place. That's why he goes to Corinth, because he knows if he can reach people in Corinth, there's people coming from all over the ancient world who then go off to other places. Corinth is a strategic place. It's not an easy place. It's a strategic place for Paul to go to. But it will be difficult, as we're going to see as we look at the first 11 verses of the chapter. And in some ways, the big idea is persevere in the mission. Persevere in the mission. I want to give you 4 things particularly that I think we see in Acts chapter 18. And the first one is this: persevere and play your part. Play your part in God's mission. We see as Paul arrives, Acts chapter 18 verse 1, he leaves Athens, he comes to Corinth, and then we're introduced to another couple. He met a Jew named Aquila, a native of Pontus who had recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had ordered all the Jews to leave Rome. Paul went to see them, and because he was a tent maker as they were, he stayed and worked with them, and every Sabbath he reasoned in the synagogue. It's interesting. We see Paul on his travels. He meets this couple. We don't know exactly what's happened to them. There's been some sort of ejection from Rome of Jewish people. These sorts of things happened actually more frequently than we'd like to think. Whenever a group got too populous in Rome and the emperor felt threatened, he'd just write an edict and just kick them all out. And this was one such instance where the Jewish people, Priscilla and Aquila among them, ejected from Rome. They move around, they come to Corinth. They're they're tent makers. What's interesting is Luke often mentions these sorts of people in his narrative. They'll come up again in some of Paul's letters to churches. He'll make reference to Priscilla and Aquila. They come up again at the end of chapter 18 as they're sort of running a house group and they're discipling a young man named Apollos. And what's kind of interesting and significant, I think, is Luke deliberately includes just ordinary people in his narrative as part of this mission. There's a diversity by design in God's mission. Ordinary people with ordinary jobs playing their part in God's mission, unstoppable. There's all sorts of characters we see in Luke's story, isn't it, through Acts? You can think of, we see great preachers. We see people like Peter in Acts 2, a bold and courageous speaker. In chapter 4, we meet Barnabas. The first thing we see about him is he seems to be a generous giver. He's almost a kind of a benefactor of the mission. In chapter 8, we meet Philip. He too is a sort of a missionary or a preacher, but he seems to have a particular talent for one-to-one Bible studies, which he does with an Ethiopian eunuch. In chapter 9, we meet a lady called Tabitha or Dorcas. She has a reputation in her community for being someone who does good and helps the poor. As the report circulates for her death, many people come. This is the reputation she's built up through her kindness. In chapter 16, we met this businesswoman, Lydia, a dealer in purple cloth, who not only is a businessman, she seems to be incredibly hospitable. The early church in Philippi seems to meet in her home. And here we meet Priscilla and Aquila. They're tent makers and they're running a house group. In chapter 18, there's loads and loads more of these sorts of things, not just in Acts but throughout the New Testament. Different people with different roles doing different things. In his book on how to become a contagious Christian, the book's written by Bill Hybels and Mark Mittelberg, there's a lovely quote where they talk about some of these different personalities and gifts all playing their part. And they say this: you may not have the knowledge of Paul or the courage of Peter, but maybe you're a whiz at making meals or fixing cars. I hope you can see how those things, and so many others like them, can be done in a way that points people to God. Paul describes the church as a body with different kind of parts, and each part is every bit as necessary as the other within God's church, within his body, within his mission. So what's your part? Think about what is your experience? What is your personality? What are your passions? How can God use you? You might not be a Paul. You might not be able to do the signs and the wonders and the persuasive intellectual preaching that the Apostle Paul does, but maybe you're an Aquila or a Priscilla. You're just a ordinary person with an ordinary job, playing your part in the kingdom. In that sense, there are no ordinary people. There are no little people in God's mission. Everybody counts. Everybody has a role to play. What's yours? What could you be doing? How could God use you in your circumstances, with your opportunities, your personality, your passions? How can you play your part in the mission of God? Second thing is be pragmatic. What's really interesting in Acts is you see as Paul encounters various challenges, he often flexes to those and finds new ways of doing things. So here we see he comes to Corinth, and initially he's a tent maker. He hasn't got the means or the financial support to give himself full time to preaching, and so he makes tents for a while. But then in verse 5, we read that Silas and Timothy came from Macedonia, and then Paul devoted himself exclusively to preaching, to testifying to the Jews that Jesus was the Messiah. Something changed. Maybe they bought some funds. Maybe there was some way of support that he could now do it full time. He hadn't before, but now he did. His usual practice, he starts in the synagogue, but interestingly, verse 6, when they opposed Paul and became abusive, he shook out his clothes in protest and said to them, "Your blood be on your own heads. I'm innocent of it. From now on, I go to the Gentiles." Then, verse 7, Paul leaves the synagogue and he moves not far. He goes just next door to the house of Titius Justus, a worshipper of God. Do you see Paul's pragmatism in the situation, his strategy? He makes tents, and then he's full time. He begins in the synagogue, but then when that doesn't work out, he goes to a house and starts some new meetings there. Paul is doing something that some theologians call principled pragmatism. Paul has his principles. He's not going to budge on the gospel message. He's not going to budge on the fundamentals, but he's pragmatic in his approach. We see that in his letter to the Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 9. He says, "I became all things to all men. To the Jews I became as a Jew. To those who didn't have the law I became as one who doesn't have the law." In other place he talks about flexing around issues of special foods or special holy days and not wanting to be a stumbling block. And what's really fascinating is Paul makes a real stand on the issue of circumcision, where he thinks it threatens the gospel. We see that in the letter to the Galatians. He says, look, anyone wants to start a fight about this, let him be accursed. At the end of the letter, Galatians 6, he says, those who want to agitate about circumcision, I wish they'd go the whole way and emasculate themselves. Where it threatens the gospel, he's a principled man, he takes a stand. But interestingly, in Acts 16, when he's going to Jewish territory, he gets Timothy circumcised. You think, what's going on, Paul? Is this principle matter or not? Well, Paul's like, look, if the gospel's at stake, if it's a gospel issue, then yeah, he'll make a stand. But where there's sort of a missional advantage, then he's very pragmatic about it. I think these are things we can think about and learn on that. How do we be pragmatic and wise in our situations? How do we don't change the message to suit what people want to hear, but how do we make the most of every opportunity, as Paul says in Colossians 4? Here's some examples. There's churches in the City of London that run lunchtime services because they know that's the best way to reach commuters. There were churches over half term with their own buildings who were doing the school meal provision. There was an opportunity and they took it. Maybe you're a real reader and you're someone who likes to read, and you could send people books, or you could start your own reading group. Maybe you're someone who enjoys social media, and you could send YouTube links. You could share them on social media or send them to friends of things that you found particularly helpful. Maybe you could get a DVD of a service and give it to a neighbour who doesn't have the internet. Maybe you're a Barnabas and you think, actually, I think my gift is giving, and I'd like to be able to pay and support for some aspect of ministry. Maybe you're a Philip and the idea of doing a one-to-one Bible study over Zoom doesn't daunt you at all, and that could be the way you get involved. Maybe you want to video your testimony, do a 90-second version of your story and let us have it. We can share it through our websites and our social media and so on. Maybe you could organise a sort of a Zoom tough questions event where you get your friends and all their difficult questions. Maybe if you're a student, and you can invite someone like John, who's got a brain the size of a planet, to come and answer all those difficult questions. Maybe you're just a social media whiz and you want to like and share and do watch parties. As Graham, our director of outreach, said to me recently, for lots of our people, they are one click away from being an evangelist. If we said to you, do you consider yourself an evangelist? You say, no way, but maybe just one click away from sharing something that is part of your story and passion. How do we make the most of our opportunity? Think. Be wise, be pragmatic, make a plan. Maybe this is something to talk about in your home groups in coming weeks. How can you, with your passion and your personality, be pragmatic in the task? And there's never a better time. Here's some fascinating statistics that just reflect the world we're in right now. As COVID-19, this is from a Guardian article that appeared a few months ago, said this: as COVID-19 tore through our world, Google searches for prayer rose by 50%. Russell Brand, sort of a media figure, said this: people want to know how to pray all of a sudden. There was a time not that long ago when we thought prayer and religion were redundant and outdated. But now people are interested because prayer is the recognition that life on earth is limited. 5 million people tuned in to an online service led by Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury. The St Martin in the Fields Church in Trafalgar Square have been astonished to find more than 1,000 people joining their morning online prayer sessions. The Church of England launched a 24-hour free phone line for prayer. More than 6,000 calls were made to that number in the first 48 hours. We live in a season of uncertainty in our world where, for whatever reason, God is using it and people are asking the biggest questions. Our world seems fragile, life seems uncertain, and people are wanting to know about the biggest things. If you think you're someone interested in faith and you think you're a minority report, you're not. People all around us are seeking. People all around us are questioning and asking and wanting to find out, look, is there more to life? What is it all about? What is the meaning? Is there a God? Does he hear my prayer? Is there a greater purpose? Is there life to come? People are really seeking at the moment. Now is a good season for us to be out there making the most of this opportunity, sharing our faith in whatever way we can, playing our part, being pragmatic as we seek to play our part in the mission of God. A couple more things. Here's the third thing. Endure hardship. This is Paul's second missionary journey. He's about 18 months into it, and it's not easy. Paul, in Acts 16, he was thrown in prison and flogged severely. In Acts 17, a riot was stirred up against him in Thessalonica, and then when he went to the next town, Berea, they chased him there and chased him out of Berea too. It's not easy here. He comes to Corinth and his own people, the Jewish people in the synagogue, they oppose him and they kick him out. This is difficult. This is hard. Paul knows that discipleship and hardship are sort of ships that sail together. People are interested. We see that. We see that in our world. We see that in Paul's day. People want to find out, but there's also opposition. Sometimes it's difficult. Paul knows that's the case. Statistically, that's the case in our world too. Nobody's seeing tons and tons of conversion in their churches. Conversion growth is about 1 or 2% in evangelical Bible-believing churches. And it's a long game. Many churches report that people are taking many years to explore and find out and ask their questions. And if that's you, that's fine. It's fine to take our time and to find out. But that's the reality we're in. It's difficult. There aren't a queue of people lining up on your door asking you to pray the prayer with them. It's hard. But this is the mission. And this is part of what it is. Paul says when he writes to the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians 2 verse 3, he says, when I was with you, I was in weakness and in fear and with much trembling. It's difficult. But at some point, we have to cross the pain line. We have to be prepared to share something with somebody, and we're afraid, aren't we? People might not respond well. They might kind of brush us off. They might shove us away. They might be slightly cross that we've talked about some of these things. We fear what other people think. Many of us are people pleasers by nature, and so we're scared to cross that pain line. But this is what mission means. That at some point we've got to get on board with this. We've got to play our part with our personality. We've got to be pragmatic and wise. But at some point, we need to cross the pain line. At some point this season, as we get in toward Christmas, you're going to have to cross a pain line and share an invite or share some content or speak to somebody about your faith. It's a challenging question, isn't it? If we experience zero hostility or opposition because of our faith, we've got to ask, are we being distinctive enough? Do people actually know what we stand for and what we believe? Discipleship and hardship, they're ships that sail together. Here's the final thing. Keep perspective. Persevere and play your part. Persevere and be pragmatic. Persevere, endure the hardship, but finally persevere and keep perspective. There's some great stories of conversions here, aren't there? As Paul faces that opposition, as he goes next door to the house of Justus, in verse 8, we learn that Crispus, the synagogue leader, and his entire household believed in the Lord, and many of the Corinthians who heard Paul believed and were baptised. There's this great encouragement that the synagogue leader Crispus, he believes. He's converted. He becomes a Christian, as do a whole load of other people. It's these stories of conversion, these little testimonies of faith. We see them when people get baptised at church, don't they? They give us that encouragement. They give us the perspective. They tell us to keep going in the mission, because there's nothing better than a changed life. Many of you, like me, you'll be suckers for a changed life. And God gives Paul this amazing comforting vision. He says, verse 19, one night the Lord spoke to Paul in a vision. Don't be afraid. Keep speaking. Don't be silent, for I am with you. No one is going to attack and harm you, because I have many people in this city. So Paul stayed in Corinth for 1.5 years, teaching them the word of God. God says, don't be afraid. Keep speaking. I am with you, and I have many people in this city. Paul won't see that yet. But God says, I've got many people here, so keep going. So Paul endures. He perseveres. He stays there another 18 months. And as you read his letters, you see the fruit of that work. You see all those extra people that have come to faith. Notice in the strategy that the proclamation and God's plan go hand in hand. It isn't the case, is it, that God's got a plan so Paul can chill? It's no, Paul. God says, I've got many people, so keep on speaking. It's a bit like fishing, isn't it? You remember the story when Jesus said to Peter in the boat, and they said they've been fishing all night, they've not caught anything, and Jesus said, chuck the net over the other side, and they do it, and they catch this massive haul. It's like if you knew that you could go and catch fish guaranteed, then fishing would be great, wouldn't it? The problem with fishing is you just sit around for far too long with nothing happening. Sometimes just sharing can be a bit like that. We can feel like we sit around and nothing happens, nobody nibbles, there's no bites. We feel it's not going our way. But God says, I've got many people. Some people will bite, some people will mock, some people will ridicule, some people will reject, but some will bite. I have many people in this place, so don't be afraid. Keep speaking, however we're old, whether you're a teenager, whether you're 98. Say, look, come on, how do we get involved with the mission of God? How do we play our part? We be pragmatic. Yeah, we've got to cross the pain line and endure hardship, but keep that perspective. This is God's work. Have a healthy sense of irresponsibility, by which I mean it's God's work to save, not yours. Your job is just to speak. Your job is just to find a way to share the message, to sow the gospel seed. It's God's job to make it grow. We're not responsible for people's responses to us. We need to be wise. But our job is just to share, and just to do that in whatever ways we can, and trust God when he says, I've got many people. Your job's to share. He's going to bring them in. There's a lovely... lovely is quite the right word. A song from 1979, disco song by the Whispers called "The Beat Goes On," and in the chorus you get this sort of repeated chorus of "The beat goes on, still moving strong, on and on. The beat goes on." Some of you know the song. I think it's a great summary of the Book of Acts. You get this sense, don't you, of God at work, and amidst the opposition and the hardship, the beat goes on. Still moving strong, on and on. The gospel beat goes on. This is God's mission, unstoppable. You know, you can visit lifeboat stations today that aren't lifeboat stations anymore. There's one on Airbnb. You can go and stay in it up in Scotland. It's a holiday home. You can go and you can sort of feel the atmosphere of the station, and you can look out at sea and imagine what it must have been like, but never really have to leave the comfort of the wood-burning stove. The old lifeboat station in Poole is now a museum. You can go and see the old boats, and you can see the pictures on the wall, and you can read the stories, and again you can imagine it, but nobody's going out from there. Nobody's going to rescue anybody. There's no life-saving missions going on. You know, churches can get like that. Churches can become like holiday homes and museums where we talk about the days gone past, and we remember the stories of when the missions happened, and we reminisce and wonder what it must have felt like, but nobody goes out to do anything. There are churches like that. Let's not be one of those. Let's not be a church like that. Let's be not a cruise ship, but a lifeboat, where we're serious and prayerful and urgent in the task. We know what's at stake. We know there's people drowning. So it's going to be hard, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to be costly, but people are drowning. And may God help us to be a church that is constantly confident in God's power, his mission unstoppable as we play our part. We're wise in our pragmatism. We're prepared to endure the hardship that's called on us, but we keep perspective in the mission of God. Don't be afraid. Keep on speaking. I am with you. I have many people in this city. May God help us in this regard.
Thank you, Martin. We're on Mission Unstoppable. Paul was on Mission Unstoppable. The message of the apostles was Jesus saves. The message of this church is that Jesus saves. And the message of our final song together this morning is that Jesus saves. So turn up the volume, open the windows, just enjoy the words sung to you. As we sing, we have heard a joyful sound. Jesus saves.
Onwards is our
Well, Bedford and Kempston certainly would have heard a joyful sound this morning, as literally hundreds of screen volumes are turned up and voices are raised across our town. They would have heard a joyful sound. And our prayer is that more and more people from our neighbourhoods would join in with that joyful sound in knowing that Jesus saves, as we go out on mission unstoppable in our coming week, as we play our parts, as we be strategic, as we endure hardship, and as we keep perspective. Would more souls be saved? Would more captives be set free? Would more children of God be adopted into his family, including the people that we know and love in this town and nation? That's our prayer. And so let Martin's word be an encouragement to us this morning. Let Paul's example be an encouragement to us this morning. And let God's mission be an encouragement to you this morning as we go out at the start of a brand new week. We'll meet again here at 6 p.m. on YouTube for our live streamed evening service. But until then, may the peace of God be with you. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and give you peace. Amen. We'll see you later.